everybody doing today? Welcome to the Farm to Fork Festival. I'm Brad Peters, beverage director for Perigary Restaurant Group. Behind me, our principal bartender for Perigary's over on 28th and N. This is Jose Carrasco. And who likes cold beverages?
I do.
Why, if you're not raising your hand, raise it anyway. All right, beautiful. So we're going to talk a little bit today about something that we use over at Perigary's, and I'm starting to see a lot more of as of late. It's something called a shrub. Who's familiar with the beverage shrub? All right, have you ever had sorbet or made a syrup? Anything like that? So the word shrub is the root word for a sorbet or syrup. The idea is you use vinegar and sugar to preserve the flavor of different fruits in the season. The nice thing is these shrubs will last up to 4 to 5 months after you use them. So as right now we're coming into the very end of melon season, you can preserve melons and use that flavor for the next 4 months. We're going to break this down into 4 easy steps right now, Jose, as you should be able to see it on the monitor here. Everyone hear me all right? Good? All right. So Jose is going to be cutting up some watermelon right now. As you're breaking this down, the most important thing when you're doing an infusion or doing a shrub or trying to extract any kind of flavor is the most surface area you can possibly have. So if we were to just cut the edges and cut all the rind off the watermelon and stick that into a bunch of vinegar or alcohol, the only part that's going to infuse is the part that's exposed to the actual alcohol or whatever the liquid is that we're using to extract. So what he's going to do is take that down and he's going to make the slices as thin as possible. So you can do that. He's doing it with watermelon right now, but you can do this with any kind of fruit, vegetable, herbs, and it's still the same thing. You still want to have your surface area. How many people brew coffee? Brew coffee before? Not a bunch of coffee drinkers here this morning. It's amazing. I would have thought all of you would have had coffee to get here right now. When you're brewing coffee, one of the variables in your coffee brewing is going to be your grind. Is your grind fine? Is it Turkish? Is it coarsely ground? Think of this as being the grind. So the finer your grind, the stronger your coffee. The more surface area we expose on our melon, the more melon flavor we're going to get in a faster amount of time. So these melon pieces into what we call a camera, but you can use any kind of jar, container, or bowl. From the magic of television, that's going to turn into a cantaloupe. And so we've taken the cantaloupe, and actually he's going to finish off with the watermelon here first. On top of that watermelon, you can add all other complementing flavors. So what we're doing here is we're taking some grapefruit zest. You can add cinnamon, vanilla. What's really great underutilized, and using that whole fruit idea, is using the peel of your citrus. So after we're done peeling this grapefruit, lemon, any type of citrus we use, don't throw it out. We can now take that lemon and we'll juice it and use it later when we're preparing the beverage, right? Some little spices to kind of bring everything together, give the drink a little bit more complexity. And then we're going to add sugar on top of that. What sugar is going to do, and we're going to show you an example of, is sugar is going to extract those flavors. It's basically going to macerate the sugar. And so any oils, any flavors, without trying to squish it, so we're not trying to get watermelon juice, we're not going to blend up the lemon peel or the grapefruit zest. We're going to try to extract those oils with sugar. So this is the same. So now we're making it's going to turn into a syrup. So as we go through, so you're taking that, as it sits overnight, or even just in a couple hours, the sugar will start to turn into a gel. The only way to get sugar to come into like a gel or like a syrup like that is some sort of moisture or something else added to it. What's being added to it is the oils from the citrus peels and then some of the oils and juice from the fruit itself. So now we've cut up fruit, we have our surface area, we've now macerated in sugar, and we've extracted as much flavor as we can out of that, out of whatever flavors we're using. Like I said, it's not just watermelon or melon, you can use pretty much any fruit. Try this. It's a great way to preserve later. You go out to the store, you can always get more fruit, it's going to cost you less. You're not able to use it all that day. Do this and you can enjoy it for 4 months. Alright, so now inside here, I can wander around, right? No? Maybe not? I'll wander around a little bit later just so you guys can see it and smell it. In here I'm getting a whole lot if you want to get watermelon, lemon, you get a lot of that lemon zest, cinnamon. we'll hand you a mic so everyone else can hear that, so ask that again at the end and we'll go over that. I can just say what her question was. Her question was, can you substitute any other sweetener other than sugar and use, like, let's say, honey or agave? It might take a little bit longer, but the same idea is there. There's also another method to this, which we'll get to on the next step, which would help with something like honey, maple syrup, agave nectar, something of that nature. So in here we have our sugar, cinnamon, and you can already kind of start to see that it's starting to extract some of the liquid out of the watermelon and some of the oils out of the lemon peel. The next step after this, we have a finished one. This has been sitting with cantaloupe, and so it gets some nice layers in there. You got your cantaloupe, or I guess, is it easier if I do it? So in there we have lemon peel, cantaloupe, sugar, and cinnamon, and grapefruit peel. So that's been sitting and macerating and extracting all those great flavors and essential oils. And then we're going to pour vinegar over the top of it. We're using Sparrow Lane vinegar. This right here is apple cider vinegar. This is another fun aspect of this, is kind of pairing the flavor that you're using with another flavor of the season or vinegar. We all know so many vinegars: raspberry vinegar, apple cider, rice, cherry, white wine, red wine, balsamic, golden balsamic. Keep on going for days. And those all lend a different flavor characteristic that you want to pair with whatever fruit or vegetable or herb you're using. Strawberries are fantastic with balsamic. I prefer golden balsamic just because it's more aesthetically pleasing. But so as he puts that in there, he's putting the vinegar in. That vinegar is now also macerate with those fruits, and it's going to take on the flavor and the sweetness of the sugar and the fruit to turn into what is called a shrub. So now that would be all put together, and you can keep that for 4 months and have the flavor of whatever fruit you're using. What we do with it at Perigary's is mix it about 5 to 1 with soda or with water. So you can keep this shrub in your refrigerator. You can have 5, 6, 7 of them. Keep them as a little syrup. Go to the store, buy your favorite soda water. This is Burritos. Find something that has a nice high bubble content, because you like bubbles. And then every time you go to have a beverage, maybe 1 ounce of syrup and 5 ounces of soda water. When you're adding vinegar in, this is that step I glazed over a little bit. There's 2 different ways to do it. We're using a cold process. We did not heat up this vinegar. You can heat the vinegar up to give you a different flavor profile. The rule of thumb I like to use is, if I can think of this fruit being in a hot dessert, like apples, pears, even berries, cherries, I'll use hot method, because a lot of times we're eating those fruits warm anyway. If it's something that we wouldn't exactly think of being warm, like cantaloupe or watermelon, we'll use a cold process to preserve those flavors that we're using. So then to get into how we do this at Perigary's, so we do this form. We make shrubs. We have a different shrub going, and all the time we have about 3 or 4 shrubs that are working. So we may come in and we may have a cantaloupe shrub, and cantaloupe we have seed for a couple weeks. That's because we made it ahead of time. We're preserving that flavor to the next season. We'll take the shrub itself and do that 5 to 1 with water. And then we hook it up to a CO2 tank. Inside one of these, which is an old soda can. As that CO2 sits on the liquid, and it is something you can do at home. You can go to a brewing store or your beer brewing store. You can buy the equipment to carbonate these things, just like people are using soda streams and that kind of thing. What happens is, when you make it at home and you're doing 1 ounce of the syrup to an ounce or to 5 ounces of water, and let's say you're adding gin or you're adding rum, now about half of your beverage is now not carbonated. You're only getting half of the bubbles. That's why I said get something with a high bubble content. If you carbonate it like we do at Perigary's, the entire beverage ends up being carbonated, so you have a higher bubble content, which is an aesthetic, that's a feel that you put on your tongue that increases flavor. So we put it in here, we let that sit for about 72 hours on gas, on CO2, and then we have it on tap. I think shrubs are becoming more popular. I think we're going to start seeing them a lot more around town. Right now there's only a few places that have it. We love our shrub. We love the fact that, especially this hot summer coming in, and vinegar is natural thirst quencher. A lot more than being sweet, a nice tart and acidic. A lot of vitamin C, so there's health benefits to it as well. I guess we can open up for a Q&A if we want to do that. Where's my mic? while we're waiting for the mic, a little history on the shrub. We went over kind of the root word shrub and the fact that it's syrup, sorbet, sherbet. Wine's about 8,000 years old, so with the creation of wine also came the creation of vinegar, and the idea that vinegar as a preserver, as a preservation. So these things that we're making right now are not new things that we came up with. These are things that we've been doing for 8,000 years. And it was just a way for them to not only get vitamin C into their body, but to also preserve and make those vitamin C flavorful rather than not flavorful, rather than just drinking vinegar. All right, any questions?
Wondering how you keep it at home. What's the best ways to keep it?
I personally put it in a bottle, cap it, and then keep it in the refrigerator. It'll last 4 or 5 months. And the idea of wine is that vinegar is that it is spoiled wine. So it has a lot of properties that has preservation properties to it. So it won't go back on you that quickly. 5 months in the refrigerator. And don't feel like you can only use it in beverages too. You can also use it in sauce. It's very similar to a gastrique. So you can use these however you see fit. We like using it as mixers with our beverages. You can do the same idea we talked about with the maceration. You can use it with alcohol, and you can make infused beverages. So you have these fruits. You substitute the alcohol where we're using vinegar, and that's also your preservative. So then combine the two, and we were talking about earlier, we have a jalapeno tequila that we have at Perrigary's, and I think that would pair very nicely with the shrub. Nice tartness in the vinegar, cantaloupe comes through really nicely, a little bit of grapefruit in there, and a little spiciness from the tequila you add to it. Now all of a sudden you have these, if you keep a couple of creams around, a couple of shrubs, you can make the same exact cocktail base, but have 12, 20 different varieties just with having 4 or 5 bottles in it. Yes.
How long does it have to keep in the vinegar? Does it need to be refrigerated?
Yes, I would refrigerate and cover. So a little ceramic on the top, keep it refrigerated. Really, it'll happen pretty quickly, overnight even. But one way that you can tell is when it gets into that kind of like gel phase. So as you look at it, you'll start to see there's not as much sugar crystallizing or crystal sugar. It's more of a gel. That's when you know that everything's been extracted, and you can smell it. I'll walk around with it, or you guys can probably give it a good smell. You'll smell when it's all been extracted. It's very strong.
So if you can freeze fresh and use that.
Interesting question. So depends on the fruit. A lot of fruit, if you freeze it and then thaw it, you'll actually be juicing it. So it's a term called cryo-juicing. So let's say like watermelon, for instance, which is mostly water. If we freeze that in cubes and then take it out of the freezer, and as you're thawing it out, all the juice will drop out of the fruit. So you won't have any of that flavor. So then you would take that, throw it in sugar, and you're not going to be extracting anything. I think pears would be fine. But the nice thing about the shrub is that you normally would freeze fruit as a preservation method. But if you realize yourself that you're throwing pears into the freezer for later, go ahead and make the shrub. Especially if that's your idea, because it's the same idea. Can you freeze the shrub? Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, really?
Oh, I do personally, and we have some recipes, and I think we're probably putting some on Epicurator, which is a website that we put recipes from our Epicurator restaurant group. There's also a really cool book called Shrubs. This has a lot of history, a lot of great recipes, a lot of ways to use that. So I highly recommend this, and then checking out the website, theepicurator.com. And you'll find recipes we're dropping things on. They're mostly seasonal, even stories, little ideas about what seasonal means to me, or what it means to Kurt Spataro, or how we come up with a lot of our ideas when we're putting together a menu.
Have fun.
Any other questions? Oh, so there's a ratio that's important when you're making this. So I didn't talk is 10, 10, 10. Or 1, 1, 1 would work as well, but we're making a batch. We think of this as 10 pounds of fruit, 10 cups of sugar, and 10 cups of vinegar. All right, so that'll yield you what we're doing, and then that 4 or 5 to 1 as far as your shrub to water when you want to actually make it into law drink. Any other questions? Everyone's gonna go home and make shrubs. Everyone's excited. Anyone mind if I take a selfie with you guys? Is that something I can do? All right, let me get this booted up here. Everybody's covered up. All right. Thank you very much, you guys. Come in and have a shrub. They're fantastic. Hopefully, come visit all our bars, Hawk Farm, Esquire, Santo, Sacramento, and go say hi to Jose. Thank you.